I know it's obviously the middle of the day, depending on what time everyone's at different parts of the country. But as on the membership committee, or excuse me, the mentorship committee, we kind of tossed around for a couple of years, different times and ideas and dates. So we settled on giving the middle of the day a try, just to see if that would be an option. And obviously, we're always looking for feedback. I think Lori would probably agree with that as well. So we appreciate everyone jumping on. Kind of we reached the midway point of our mentorship committee. Both Ken and myself are part of our committee. Lori also is kind of our liaison, as well as several other people. And so Ken and I jumped on. We're just here to kind of wanted to chat. This is a mentee only call. We're going to have a separate call with mentors in about a week or so. So we wanted to just kind of do a touch base with you guys, obviously open any kind of questions or concerns you guys might be having. But we also have a couple people on our in the community, in the profession that have been part of this committee in various aspects, either as a mentee or a mentor, and just talk about some best practices they have had throughout the course of this committee or this program, excuse me. So I want to just, first off, let me just kind of introduce some of the people that we have on the call and kind of go through, and we'll kind of bounce a couple questions off of them. And then obviously anyone else on this call can jump in for some questions as well. We kind of want to have this open for any type of conversations or to help with you guys as well. So a couple people on this call. Regina Bolin is the director of digital media at Kansas State. Since she's been there since summer 2022. She also was at Midwestern State before that. She's been in this program for multiple years as a mentee, and also this year she's a mentee and a mentor. So she's doing both sides of the coin. Katie Mucci is popping on. There's Katie. Katie is the assistant director of D3 governance at the national office in Indy. She's also previously was the assistant commissioner for digital strategy at the Missouri Valley, and also spent a lot of years at the D3 level at the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference. She helps a lot of different things, and formerly co-started now college sports communicators. She's also been a mentor on several occasions for us, and is also the mentor to Regina this year. So really cool. We have both sides of that dynamic on the call. Mike Williams is the assistant AD for communications at Illinois State. He's been there since 2012. He has been on the advocacy committee and also was a 2016 Bud Nagel Award recipient. And he and his staff have won the Missouri Valley Sports Info Staff of the Year multiple times. And he's also been serving as a mentor for us for several years. And the last person I just wanted to give a shout out to is Angela Roberts. She's the assistant AD for communications at Fort Lewis. Was also a sports information assistant at Midland. She worked on her master's. She's been part of this committee for multiple years as a mentee, and she's also paired with Ken as her mentor, so they can bounce off some ideas from each other as well. So first off, I want to ask a couple of people in our quasi panel here, and anyone can go first. We can start with Mike or Katie as the mentor side of things. Just how each of those individual relationships, mentee-mentor relationships, have been different year to year, and how, it's obviously there's different styles for communication, but what have you guys learned with your different mentees over the years that's been effective? Mike, you can go first. I see you're in my front corner.
Well, thanks for having me be a part of this. It's, I think with any line of communication, whether it's a student athlete, a coach, or whatever else we're dealing with, every person handles that a little bit differently. I've had, 2 separate cycles of the mentor-mentee relationship. At this point in time, I'm currently involved and with one right now, but it's really what works best for you, and you have to set that in the very first call. So both times I've had the initial call with both the mentees was just what works best. Is it email? Is it text? Is it a Zoom call periodically, bi-weekly, monthly? What makes sense? Because the last thing I wanted to do was burn them out and feel like I was constantly checking in on them and hitting them too hard with too many questions, or feeling like I was being overbearing or anything like that. So it was just setting that early and what that is. And obviously things change, and you've got to be able to willing to go on the fly, because we all know our schedules change at the drop of a dime. So I think whatever works best for you and for that, but try to make it as consistent as possible, and try to make it as pointed as possible, and make sure that the time that you're in there, you're getting something done and not just wasting each other's time, because that's when it starts to get stale and starts to maybe not have as much value.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. I think I've been through it a couple of times, and I think this year with Regina is probably the most successful one. And hopefully I can shut my ears if she wants to say anything bad about me. Because I know I've not been the most responsive the last month, but in the past I've done somewhere it was kind of like, hey, I'm your mentor, you're my mentee. Do you want to set up a scheduled call? And they're like, and we're both kind of like, oh, we'll just play it by ear. If we need something, we can reach out, and then you don't hear from them for 6 months. And I think that's what Mike said about having a scheduled thing is so important. Regina and I have a monthly call that we have every time, even if we don't have really anything to talk about, we just get on there and we talk a little bit. But I think that's really helpful, just having some kind of schedule with that and being intentional about your time. She always comes if she has something she wants to bring up or talk through with me. She comes with that, and vice versa. I would do that if I had something as well. So I think that's the key, is just making sure you're intentionally planning your time out with this. I think it can really easily get lost in all the scuffle of what we're doing if you don't plan it out. And it could be monthly, it could be bi-weekly, it could be whatever you guys need. And we do Zooms. It could be, a phone call or a text, like Mike said. I think just figuring out what works for you and doing it is the key to successful pairing.
Regina, I want to jump over to you. Like I said a minute ago, you're obviously doing both sides of the coin. So you're seeing it from both angles, and really how much do you use both of those different relationships to kind of pair off each other and really use the same concepts for both relationships?
Yeah, I think it's been very helpful so far. Talking with Katie, like what we've talked about so far has been very meaningful in my journey in athletics, and so much so that I take it and turn it right back around and tell it to my mentee that I have. So it's going both ways. I learn from my mentee kind of what she wants, and then I get ideas about, okay, this is what I want to bring to our talks with Katie that I have. So both of them just play off each other, and it's a very unique situation, being able to learn from someone on both sides of athletics, whether that being someone who's been there longer or someone who's just getting started. I feel like it's a good situation to be in.
Angela, I want to ask you a question. I think a lot of us can relate to. You've been in this program and had several mentors over the last couple of years. What is it that you can now grab from your different mentors? What can you grab from each different one that you've taken with you that maybe at the time you weren't like, oh, that's really important, but now looking back, it's something that Ken had talked to you about, or it's something that previous year talked about that now you've kind of transformed and brought into your daily routine?
Yeah, I think my experience with the mentor program has been unique. My first mentor was when I was a graduate assistant. So a lot of our conversations were geared around finding a job and making sure that I was ready to hit the workforce and be a really qualified candidate. And then now with Ken, our relationship is more of like bouncing ideas off of each other, but also just forming connections within the industry. So something that I took from my first mentor, I've used now because I have my first assistant in my role, and just making sure that he feels comfortable and he feels like he has all the tools to be successful, because that's what my first mentor did for me. But then in addition, I'm learning from Ken in the way that he interacts with his student athletes. I know that he has really great relationships with his student athletes from what he's told me. And I've tried to bring that into a lot of my conversations with the teams that I cover too. Making sure that they know I'm not just, an administrator or somebody who's sitting at my desk, but somebody that they can approach and have real conversations with and know as more than just somebody who stats their games and writes recaps. So yeah, there's been a lot of tools that I've taken from it, both hard skills and soft skills, which has been really beneficial for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Angela. Want to take a quick pause. Anyone on the call, any of our current mentees, if anyone has any questions at any point, we have a nice small group, so that's great. Feel free. I think I can see everyone on the screen. So if anyone has anything, feel free to unmute. You can ask us a question. Anybody on our small panel, if you have any questions about your relationship with your current mentor, we're all here to help. So feel free to jump in anytime if you have anything specific for anyone or just a question for the group. We're here obviously to help. So want to jump out and throw that out there, feel free. Don't have to wait till the end, so you can jump in at any point in time. I want to go back to Mike. Mike, you've been a mentor in this setting, with this committee and this group through CSC, formerly COSIDA, for a long time, or for several years now. But obviously throughout your career, it's not something that's really constricted. A mentor, by definition, is not constricted to 10 months that we have this program. Talk about really the relationships that people that you grew up with in the profession that you still obviously lean on. We still obviously have people that we connect with, and then obviously I'm sure you still keep in touch with your former mentees as well.
Yeah, and that's the best part to me in this business, is the relationships that you build, not just obviously with student athletes and coaches and maybe even other staff members, support staff members within your department, but with people in the profession as well. Yeah, I keep in touch with Brock, although he's very busy at North Florida, and then obviously now with Kristen as well. So it's nice to see, but Brock was different. Brock had just started in his career at the time and was kind of getting some new responsibilities, and he wasn't sure how to handle things and things like that. So with that, and Kristen's now, she's on the same level as me. She's an assistant AD just like I am. So going back to kind of what Angela was saying, it's more of a, hey, did this work for you, or does this work for you? And kind of balancing back things. Well, how would you handle this situation? So I've had that same coin, where I've worked with people in kind of various different spots of their career. But I've been here at Illinois State since 2009 and been in this role since 2012, and worked with a lot of people that have stayed in the business, a lot of people that have gone on to pro sports, a lot of people that have completely gotten out of the industry and are maybe working in a corporate side of the PR world. So everybody's experience is a little different. And I think, but managing those relationships and continuing to be intentional about those conversations and still having those times, it's great, working in the Valley here, everybody's pretty tight. All the SIDs know each other. We're obviously all seeing each other when we're traveling to and from each other's facilities. We get together in St. Louis every summer and get to kind of reconnect in person. But those relationships don't stop, even if somebody moves on and goes to another school. I'm still talking to guys that when we were GAs together in the Valley that are all at different schools now, guys and gals that are elsewhere. So those relationships don't stop. And I have no problem calling them if I've got a question on something. Hey, have you guys ever dealt with this there? Or something happens and comes up. So that's the best part of the relationships to me, is having those people that you can lean on. And even though you may not have had a formal structure of a mentor-mentee, you're still bouncing ideas, you're still using them. Sometimes it's just for therapy, if nothing else, just to talk about, the stresses of the job, but they get it because they're doing it as well. And that's very beneficial.
And I think, Mike, you hit a key point there. I think it's really, we use the term in this setting, mentor and mentee, but really it's about creating relationships and friendships, and going beyond just a pairing of help me, help you. And I think that's one of the great things about our profession in general is. I'll use a personal note. Katie and I haven't connected in a little bit. That's probably partially my fault, but everyone's busy. But when I shot Katie a message, said, hey, would you like to be on this panel? She gave me a call and she jumped on. I know she's has a busy day today, came right from a different meeting. So I think that's part of it. And Katie, just talk about that for a quick second, just, how really, the connotation of mentor mentee, and by definition, rigid out of a dictionary may not be really the best way to describe what you can get out of this. It's really about creating friendships and people you can lean on. And obviously in all different walks of this, D1, D2, D3, NAIA, really it's just about shared experiences.
Yeah, I agree. I think exactly what you're saying. First off, Mike, you're going to make me miss going to St. Louis or being in St. Louis in the summer meetings, seeing you and Liz. So it's a little Valley call here today. But I agree. It's all about that. And I think that's obviously been the theme of my whole entire career is connections I've made and how those have worked out for me. And but this program is just a way to easily connect with somebody, kind of, I wouldn't say a forced connection because you do have to work at it. but I think it's an easy way to just, if you're young and you're starting out, to have a connection right off the bat of, if you're a mentee of someone who hopefully is also connected to people. And I think, asking them if you need introductions or if you need help with meeting people or networking. I think the mentors, at least I am, and I feel like I can speak for most mentors, are so happy to help you connect with other people, especially with CSC, broadening a bit to include a lot more creatives and people that aren't in the traditional SID space. If you're someone who wants to move into that area, or vice versa, if you're under creative or something and you want to learn more about athletic communications, I think that having a mentor like this, people know people, and it can really, really help you out in that way. And these relationships will help you out. Even if 5 years down the road, a job opportunity might come open and they might be like, hey, I knew you, back then you do great work. And that's happened to me. And I think it's a key thing right here where just making these relationships in these and using them, not using them, that's a bad word, but making genuine relationships and continuing them can really help out with your overall career path. And like I said, I guess I don't even know if that's what you asked, Nick, but.
No, that was perfect. It's funny. We talk about this, and I think that I think Lori's going away for a second, but I think this is okay to share. I think that with our committee this summer, we're getting back to being hopefully a convention in person. I think we're being intentional with that and trying to get people, trying to create a space for our former mentees and mentors to get together. Again, to create that bond and further that relationship. And I think for a lot of people that the convention is a way to really just reconnect and continue to, it's similar to Mike, it was in St. Louis and their conference. Just, you might see people once a year, but really it's about relationships, and those can carry on. You can pick up the phone or shoot an email or a text. And it's really about relationships. So I want to go over to Ken real quick. Ken, not to put you on the spot with Angela on the call too, but really just you've done the mentor side of things. What are some things that, looking back, have been beneficial to you as a mentor that you gained from your mentee that maybe at the time they weren't thinking they were helping you, but really you're gaining that different level, a different viewpoint that now you've taken and used on a daily basis?
Well, involved in this program, I had a disastrous first pairing, and it was basically, it was my fault. I just didn't make the time. This is now my second pairing actually with Angela, but I've had countless people work for me. I've had 30, 40 people that have worked for me in the last 20 years that have all gone out to full-time jobs in sports information. And the approach I wanted to be sure with Angela was when we first had our conversation, we got matched up late, and I approached her and said, let's figure out what you want to get out of this, and then we'll figure out how to shape this relationship. And she said, we can touch base every once in a while and just keep it that way. I'd love to just be able to text and stay in touch. And if we have anything that I really need help with, we can get on a call and figure it out. And that was fine, because we and her are in similar situations in our shop. We're small staffs at our school, so our time is sacred to us, so to speak. It's always crunched, and we text back and forth basically. I'll say something very foolish and aged, and she'll laugh at me. And I think the term today was dope, and I told her I apologized right afterwards for saying it. Thumbs down. I was embarrassed. I was. But any approach I've taken to these relationships is finding out what they want and then putting them in that situation to accomplish it. And a lot of times I will sit back and just watch them go. So these have been people that have worked for me, and I'd hate saying that people work for me. I'd rather work with people. So I put people in a position to be successful, and then kind of guide them along the way with any questions they may have. And you see a lot of innovation. You see a lot of people who take a great initiative. And I've made it a point to try to learn as much as I can from anybody who served in a mentee role as I've given to them. So I've traded off career advice for them to teach me how to use Instagram, basically, is the quick version of that answer. But as we said, everyone said before, the relationship building is key. And people always know more than they think they do. So I want to be sure that we bring that out of people. I bring that out of people when I talk to them and make them realize it, but maybe see it from a different perspective as well.
I want to just quickly look at some of our people that are current mentees. It can be a raise of hand, a nod, or feel free to unmute as well. But I just want to do a quick touch base and just I think Ken and also Laurie as kind of our liaison. We also make sure everything's going great with your current relationships. Hopefully that's a thumbs up and you guys are having these conversations like we're talking about and you're building these relationships. So hopefully that's the case. If not, feel free to reach out to us for sure. There's still time to kind of square that away and I don't feel like it's a lost cause. Just want to pause for a quick second. If anybody has any other questions for anyone on our quasi panel, just is really just kind of more a roundtable, not panel, I guess. Put my convention labeling hat back on, Laurie. All right, I'll go back to Regina and Regina. I think kind of touching back with what Ken was just talking about. He kind of joked about learning Instagram from his mentees, but you're in a unique position as a digital media person. And so how do you, I think on the surface, I think we're all in the same area, like we're all in the same communications realm, but I think clearly we can all agree that we all wear multiple hats, but digital media and print media and what we do in stats and stuff is sometimes different. So how do you really connect those two with your relationship with Katie and also with your other mentee? How do you bridge those two?
Yeah, like you said, I feel like we all do a little bit of everything. So it's basically just finding those connections where I can mention something to Katie and she explains, oh, I've done this before. And then I say, okay, like I could bring that back to my job in this way or something. And then turn around and Brenna is the name of my mentee, and then talk to her about, okay, I have this situation going on and this is how I kind of got through it. And then she'll talk about, oh, we've had that kind of situation go on in our office too. So I feel like, kind of like you said, we all might not do the exact same thing, but do things very similar and have kind of the same situation. So like with digital media, my biggest thing is working the website. And I know everyone has a website, so that's where we kind of find our niche there. But then with some people having smaller staffs, they do social media too, which is another part of my job. So just kind of figuring out exactly where the realms touch and then exploring that more. And then if there's something that I want to get into that doesn't really relate to my job, I know that I can bring that to Katie and ask her what her experience with that is. And she's been super helpful with that. We had a talk a couple weeks ago or months ago, I can't even remember now, but about learning to do graphics, because I feel like that's something that I haven't really gotten to do in my jobs that I've had before. And she kind of explained her process with that and learning how to do it and all that. So that's been really helpful for me in trying to learn. And I shared that with my mentee as well, just for something to pass along, and it might help her, it might not, but it's just about finding what does help and asking about it. So.
Awesome. We don't want to keep you guys too long. We kind of wanted to keep this within about 25-30 minutes. So we we could probably sit here and sit around the table and talk about stories for a long time, but obviously we don't want to keep anybody too long. So I just want to open up for anybody else has any last questions, any of our current mentees. And then obviously if Lori has anything for the good of the group as the overall for the mentor committee.
So I will just chime in here. Everything that all of you have said from whatever side of the equation you're on has been so spot on. It's been something I've experienced as being part of this program as well. And I guess I wanted to say that depending on what your goals are as a mentee, if you need tactical strategy, very technical type, if those are your needs and you're not paired with someone who can provide that, I would say you've got two options. use that mentor that you've been assigned to help you make that connection 2 or 3 down the road, or come back to me and say, this mentor that you gave me can't help me at all, and we'll find you somebody. And I don't think anybody should feel bad about that situation, because there are only so many mentors and so many mentees, and we're not going to make perfect matches every time. But I would say, before you say this won't work, think about how they could help you. Can they introduce me to someone that I know that works with them, or that works in their conference, or whatever, that might be able to help me. And then just remember that even though your relationship may technically end with the convention this year, you're still tied to this person, or not, depending on the situation, I guess. But my very first mentor, Travis, my God, he texts me all the time. My mentee from last year, Lynn, we just had a call yesterday. So those relationships don't go away. And so don't think that, you know, I guess some people come, oh, can I have this person for another year? The whole thing is you get these people for life, if you want them. So remember that your relationship goes on. And then also a plug for kind of a pilot program we're running this year with our mentorship program is to pair people who need a mentor with someone who's going to help them figure out who they want that mentor to be and help them make the ask. So honestly, this pairing is great when it works, but if you know specifically what your goals are, and you know 5 people that you haven't yet had the courage to really approach, this track of mentorship is to help you along the way and help you be able to make that ask. So think about that next year. If you choose to be part of the program, that might be a track you want to try out. Nick.
Thanks, Lori. If anybody doesn't have anything else, we just want to say thanks for Ken and I, and also Lori, for our whole committee, for you guys jumping on, taking some time today. I really want to thank Regina, Katie, Mike, and Angela for jumping on and kind of sharing their experiences as part of this. And again, just to last echo what Lori said, really, this is what you get out of it. And that's a two-way street. So feel free to reach out, over communicate, for lack of better words, with your mentor, mentee, vice versa. Also feel free to reach out to us on the committee. So thanks for jumping on with us, and hopefully everyone has a good rest of the day. Obviously, we're getting into another type of crossover busy season. So good luck to everybody, and thanks for jumping on for a few minutes.